The last video that I had done is basically experimenting with this idea of nature and like the AI digital images, because I feel like it's important to kind of break barriers. And in the arts, it's just a renowned knowledge that most people from different generations and different eras of the arts actually had. In order to move to the next level of the arts, boundaries were broken within the arts. And the whole question of the Dada era, where you had artists like Salvador Dali and Man Ray and who was the Duchamp, Duchamp, who all had and played a quite a interesting role within the arts. And the Dada era actually started through the time of clubbing, like the underground world during the 20s. The 1916 to 1924 was the time of the Dada. And before Dada, we had artists from the Impressionist era, like Monet and Renoir and Degas, who actually, let's go into the books, where these ideas of color and contrast, first impression exhibition. Okay, so there are all these things, right? Just to show you some of the things. I love these books. They're so fantastic. This book is called Treasures of the Impressionisms by John Keir. There are some fantastic, phenomenal, let's just go through this. Nature and colors and contrast, right? Colors started to, like you have, I mean, these are just beautiful. Degas, right? And this is all before you have the discussion on Dadaism or Dada factors and the changes. So Impressionism came before that, and this was socialite kind of like lifestyle, right? And nature and subject matter and hands-on, like it was a little bit freer with the brushstroke. Versus, I'll show you what happened before this. We had romantic, Monet, and as we know, Monet eventually lost his eyesight, right? He eventually lost, but the colors, they're just beautiful. Beautiful colors. And the contrasting colors and how they were constructed are just different now. Let me just show you this. I think this is Monet as well, right? So you have that. Okay, so you have partly this. Now we're going to go into the other larger book. I love these books. This is why I get the books, so I can show these to people and just say, this is the perfect time. Sitting in nature and showing the old, this is the other one, right? I showed this the other day. The Metropolitan Museum of the Arts, Masterpiece Paintings. It's huge. This is like massive. So we're going past the Renaissance. I think Romantic is after, isn't that right? Romantic. It's a little bit darker, isn't it? During the age of colors and paints were not refined, because I think, and don't forget, as age gave into the paintings, the colors of the paintings obviously would have changed. John Singer, Sargent. I think there was somebody at the Met Gala who modeled an outfit very similar to this piece, right? Okay. That's John Singer Sargent. And the colors, you can see the colors now. Looking at these colors with John Singer Sargent's piece over here, it's brown. A lot of the pieces that Dadaism came about with was very darker in color and contrast. Where's the Dada stuff? Is this Dada? Andy Warhol, I think he was afterwards. Jackson Pollock. I think Cubism was beginning to happen during the breakout from Impressionism, right? So Picasso, though he was an absolutely phenomenal painter, he decided to go simplified his vision and created this whole cubist approach to things, simplistic approach to paintings. Show you some cubism. Oh gosh, cubist pieces, right? This is I think this is this is Salvador Dali. So he was during that era of Dadaism. Like Dada came about. Dadaism was a little bit more abstract than just these. Like Man Ray basically created, if I don't have it with me right now, but Man Ray was a photographer. I think he was an artist first and then like a photographer. But what he had done was used the print paper of the developing printed paper, and he would use like shapes, and then he would develop the shapes from the print, or print with the shapes on the developing paper. So it was like a very different approach to things. It was like famously known for, I think he at one point took photographs of Coco Chanel at one point. I don't know the exact pictures. I don't have them here, unfortunately. And then you have, we spoke about Salvador Dali. He did these whole like ideas of just ideas, like creating an idea and a storytelling dreamlike state that he would then construct into like these really amazing pieces that everybody knows. But they were all, the colors were not completely, like I talk about the muddy colors. People are utilizing colors like the way they would in the 1920s. And I try to emphasize we need to do a little bit more impressionistic color approaches. Monet is a great example of finding somebody who had very, very sharp understanding of color. Then after that, and I have a big thing for Edward Hopper, but he came afterwards. Cubism, he broke, yeah. There were like a lot of things. Andy Warhol came after all that. And then you have an artist, Georgia O'Keeffe, and she started breaking out like lots of different colors from nature, and just like I think she opened the door for more like close-up images of flowers and like a lot of feminist perspectives on things. But before she was, I think she was involved in the Circle. There was a gallery in New York, and she met her husband, who was Alfred Stieglitz, who was a photographer, and she became his muse as a model for his photography. So black and white. But that kind of branched out, and then she started building up her process as a recognized model for Stieglitz, and then also developing her own like aspirations as an artist herself. So there were breakout phases for each one of these artists, right? It's just quite fascinating. Duchamp, he's also recognized as the artist that decided that it was quite okay to find abstract pieces and objects and place them in gallery spaces. So he was the artist that actually did the piece of this male urinal sitting on like positioned on the wall of one of the gallery spaces. So there were like that kind of breakout phase. Now you have to go into this whole question of the AI stuff, right? And AI is interesting because everybody wants to follow suit with what everybody else is doing. And for me, I'm seeing it from the perspective of an artist who studied how to break boundaries and why the boundaries are broken and what the reason is for that kind of developing process. And nature, like not too many people are doing it. People are recreating nature and placing it into AI. But the newest video that I had done is using nature and placing the AI with the nature and molding the two together, because I think it's interesting to be explorative with new mediums, just like Dadaism, where Dadaism was all about experimenting with objects rather than paint. to place in gallery spaces, or ideas that were breaking out of the conservative approach to things. Impressionism was very social, like a social kind of paint display, a community of artists that got together and kind of painted together as a collective. So a lot of things, Dada broke out like boundaries, and I kind of see that AI could be that kind of breakout shell from the general approaches to just painting, because I've also painted. I even have a painting painted on YouTube, so there's like all that's happening. So I just think it's important to acknowledge that colors do matter. And the music on here is, but I'll lower the volume anyway, just because I don't want to go into that, because it's like a whole. Okay, so you're seeing me create the AI. I don't know if you can see it, but you can create the AI, and then from the AI, I then shift over to like the real life. Then I shift over to the AI, because it is a space where you can kind of break out into like a different perspective. I don't think you have to stick to one type of genre, but I also find that a lot of people who are doing the AI are generally sticking to the colors that people recognize as like muddy, and it's because the color theory is never discussed, it's never brought up, and I feel like it's my job to kind of bring that into discussion. All these natural colors, like I'm teaching my student right now, all these colors that you see in nature, these colors can always be recreated exactly, almost exactly, because I've done it before myself, almost exactly to the colors that you can create from paint. Everything you see in my background right now, this can all be reconstructed. And I'm the type of person who likes like bright colors. I've lived in a world with muddy colors, and I don't like it. It makes me feel miserable. So colors play a lot of a big role on your personal habits and lifestyle and feelings and emotions, because color theory isn't just color theory. It's like a mental state, right? If you have brighter colors around you, you're going to feel brighter and happier, not as somber. And I wear a lot of black, so this is a whole new angle. And I think the brighter the colors you kind of create and dabble with, there are so many colors out there. You don't have to just stick with the purples or the dark greens or the browns or the reds. Those are like primary and secondary colors. There are all these other colors in between that people are not exploring. People need to experiment with those colors in between. Those are the colors you want to like look into. Even starting with a gray gradient, a gray painting, like a gradient painting that starts with gray, and then you just understand using 3 colors or 2 colors, how to mix those colors together. I even recommend just even experiment. If you haven't painted before, I would recommend doing a painting. I can even walk you through a process of how to do a painting and how to mix the colors with a paint brush. Maybe I should do that. Maybe that would be something else I need to look into. I am doing that with a student right now in person, so it could be the right time to actually explain it through mixing the colors on the camera. Eventually I might do that. I did it a little bit on the gray, so you could see I was actually like with my palette, you could see the watercolors I was mixing to get certain different gradients of gray. This I might just go ahead and do different gradients of greens or blues. I mean, within a little piece of green, there are 6 different or more colors just within like what you see here, right? Or like 3, like 1, 2, 3, like all this green. It's not just green. You're looking at some blues. You're looking at a bit of yellow, maybe a little bit of red on the edges. Things you just don't like. You don't notice it until you're analyzing it. So sometimes I think it's important to just step out of a basement, okay? Step out of a club and get into like the fresh air and just enjoy the colors that you have out of the space. Almost very similar to why I chose the colors in my space. I selected colors for certain purposes in my particular space because you work around particular things. Like for instance, if you're dealing with textiles and fashion, you generally want to have the white background. So you want to have a place where your focus is the color, right? Versus everything else around you. The grays, you kind of like balance it out to see what's going on. So it all matters. And I have ordered some prints from the newest video that I did, like a little short that I did, and it will be ready tomorrow. So I can show you from here, from this last video, for the, for this next, the prints. So when they arrive tomorrow, I will show you what I have done and how that will like make a statement. I think, and then I signed it at the bottom. But I'd like to see what the prints look like. I'm curious to know how they turned out as prints. And I used Frisco. It's on my phone. Actually, I do have it on here. Frisco, Adobe Frisco. So it's the new version of Adobe for your phone or your iPad. Oh yeah, it's here. What's nice is if you put it both on your iPad or your iPhone and your iPhone, those files transfer directly onto both formats. Yeah, this is the print. So what you're seeing now is the print from Adobe Frisco. I took the photo, that's from the image, right? Okay. And I think I have this one. So these are being printed as we speak. But these colors that I use come from understanding how to mix pigments and ideas and concepts. Okay. When I speak to the prompter, I basically say, these are the colors I want. I'm very, 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 very specific. Okay. And I didn't just start here. You have to remember when Photoshop came out, I was using Photoshop. When Adobe Frisco came out, I started using Adobe Frisco. When AI started coming out, the moment it was out on the platforms, I was on it. I was like, this is like something I definitely have to do. So I was playing around with this stuff already. And as somebody who had studied graphic design, for me, it's like a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. I was like, this has to be. So that's next level. So there are lots of things you can do. I may eventually think about doing paint over it. I don't know. We'll think about it. But I want to see what the prints look like first. And that's the brief talk.